Thanks for staying here on Joy News. Today, before the break, I was telling you that a circuit court in Kumasi has fined the 13 persons who escaped from lawful custody 200 penalty units. Now, the United Nations has condemned last week's violent attacks on the court by these people, describing the act as reprehensible. The UN is concerned the action that has the tendency to tarnish the image of Ghana's democracy. It will be recalled that these members stormed the court and freed their members who were standing trial for attacking the Ashanti Regional Security Liaison Officer. Now, other organizations, including the NCCE, the Christian Council, have condemned the actions of the Delta Force. However, speaking at the end of a cabinet retreat at Pediase Lodge in Ibri, President Akufo-Addo said the happenings in Kumasi are systematically being brought under control in the way that it should be. His comments come on the back of numerous calls on him to rein in the group and all others like it. The president also reassured the nation that his government will serve Ghana according to the rule of law. The actions of pro-NPP vigilante groups since the NPP took power have caused a lot of public outrage, with some suggesting the president has been quite laid back in dealing with the issue. Let's speak to security expert Emmanuel Sowate now. Good afternoon, sir. Thanks for speaking with us. Hello, Mr. Sowate. Thanks for speaking with us.
Yeah, it's a pleasure having me on your program.
All right,
and
now.
Good afternoon to your viewers.
Thank you very much. Now, since the latest vigilante attacks, we've spoken a lot about the security implications of these groups. Now, as a security expert, do you see a likely security threat, not necessarily as a result of the attacks, but the way this issue is being handled?
There are a number of ways you can look at this. It depends on the type of threat you are looking at, and that will, of course, affect how the response is evaluated. But generally, I think at different levels, we are trying. If 10 is the best and 0 is the least, if I'm evaluating the response of the police, I might put it different from the response of the executive, the response of the civil society group. But I think generally we are heading towards the right direction. If the right direction is defined here to me, specifically making sure that state institutions work and making sure that we draw lessons from this. Just before you take your question, if you have another, I think there's also a bright side of all these developments, which is that it has brought the discussions of vigilance to the front burner, and it has consistently engaged the attention of civil society, the executive, security, and interestingly also Ibn Chambers representing the UN. So generally, that is my take on it.
And so what would you say to critics who say, well, the president should come out and speak? For them, in such instances, yes, the rule of law must work, but they want to see a more proactive executive.
Yes, I think that it is fair to evaluate it from that perspective. It means here that should the president have commented more forcefully earlier. You see, the speed with which sometimes government machinery works sometimes is different from civil society, and even civil society is not a homogeneous group of people. There are some who will say the timing of the president is fine, some will say it is not right. But for me, I think that what is also missing here is the perspective of those directly affected. You know, have we engaged with the quote-unquote suspects? What are their concerns? What are their views? What do they think precipitated this? And have we drawn lessons from that? I think that we should also look at that perspective because it is missing from all these calculations. And I think that if we don't do that, we may be missing certain critical variables that would help us in finding lasting solutions. Because if you are not careful, what you do is that if you push the hard discourse so much, when I say the hard discourse, the hard intervention, i.e. police arrest them, prosecute them, and leave the soft part referring to the long-term sensitization, I think that we might not be having the real balance. We should still prosecute, show that you can just not go and do certain things, you'll be prosecuted. But also let's understand why these things happen. Is it that there's some contract, unwritten contract that is being broken? Is it that there are some expectations and obligations that some people are thinking that, yes, they perform their role, but the other actors did not perform their role? If you understand all those nuances, then when we are designing strategic intervention for lasting solution, we will know that, okay, this part, politicians should understand that in the short term, certain utterances, certain promises might be attractive, but in the long term are counterproductive to themselves, their physical security and safety, to their party and to the nation as a whole. And I think that when we situate these things referring to the soft approach, the dialogue, the hard approach, the arrest prosecution, within the framework of short-term interventions and long-term interventions, we would have lasting solutions instead of episodic ones.
So do you agree with those who say they are first-time offenders? Let's be lenient with them.
It depends. You see, it depends what you mean by leniency. If leniency means that we understand that we are not going to set a bad precedent and make sure that people are held accountable, I think that is fair. But when I say the people, we shouldn't only fight or we shouldn't only prosecute those who have been caught in the act, but we should also investigate those who have the remote control behind, who support in one way or the other. And if we did that, we might see that it is, the Delta Pulse is just one group, but it is symptomatic of deeper problems that cast across particularly two parties. You understand?
Yes.
It's a problem that reflects growing vigilantism across the two major political parties. But what are the concerns of those directly affected? We should listen to them.
Okay.
I think we are losing that bit of listening to them, because if we did, not only will we understand the whole picture, not only will we understand their concerns and those who fund them, but how we can be able to contain this problem. But that catalyst, saying that they might necessarily degenerate to Boko Haram, I'm a little skeptical drawing that relationship, because there are certain key variables that you need to be present in particular combinations to be able to predict that this trajectory will necessarily follow.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Sowate, for your time. That's Emmanuel Sowate, security analyst, speaking to us on the development with the pro-MPP vigilante group Delta Force. You're watching Joy News today, and corporate institutions are showing interest to contribute to bringing relief to mothers and babies at the Mother and Baby Unit of the Konfo Teaching Hospital. The latest to commit to the cause is the Guinness Ghana Breweries Limited, which has just completed a water project at the facility. It follows a Joy News special documentary which revealed an average of 4 babies died daily at the facility due to lack of space.
Chief Executive of Guinness Ghana, Francis Abon-Lahore, will not give figures, but says the company will collaborate with stakeholders, improve conditions at the hospital.
I actually had that conversation with the Chief Executive Hospital of the hospital, where he talked about the current ongoing work at the maternity ward, where they are expanding it to be able to cater for more patients. What I would say at this stage, which I've said to him as well, is for us, this is the beginning of a new partnership. We'll constantly look for, different areas, different aspects of the hospital where we can support, where we can partner, and our commitment is we will do that. If it's the ward, yes, we will do it, but at this stage, I don't know yet. I just need to understand that request a bit more. But what I'm committed to is that Kofa Anoche Hospital, we're into partnership, and we'll continuously work with them to see how we can support their services to the people of Ghana.
About $90 million will be needed to complete a nearly 1,000-bed capacity stored project at the hospital. As a temporary measure, Multimedia Group Limited is spearheading fundraising for proposed expansion of the existing maternity block. At a meeting last week, the Architectural and Engineering Services Limited presented estimates of about 4.7 million cedis for the expansion. When completed, additional beds will be added to existing facility with 2 more theaters and restrooms for medical officers. Both management at the hospital and Multimedia Group Limited have resolved to solicit financial and other forms of support to execute the project. Mr. Abon-Lahore lauds the Multimedia Group for bringing the plight of mothers and children to public attention.
More than 6 months ago, and recently I was listening to the Joy News documentary on this hospital. First of all, I thought that was creative. I thought it was very interesting, and I intensely listened to all the challenges and the opportunities in this hospital, and I was particularly pleased that before that documentary, we already started partnering with the hospital management.
Your support and donations to this cause are welcome.